Hello, welcome to our channel. I would appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for coming. It is the 17th of July, Thursday. This is an exciting day, let me tell you. Trump is tethered to the deep state in such a way that he's now trying to peel himself out of it. So thank you, FBI, for your suppression efforts. You did great. You suppressed our video. We expect nothing less from a terrorist organization that's run by some demon-possessed people. Trump has one heck of a mess to clean up. Hegseth is a demon-possessed person. Marco Rubio is. He needs somebody in the White House that understands who's demon-possessed and who's not. So pray for him, because the Jesus he's praying to is the God of light, which is Lucifer. Jesus means light in Old French. Anyway, he's got a heck of a mess to clean up, and we're still praying for him. I know he's not doing what he said he was going to do, but he's got a lot of problems right now in the White House. And we'll see how they pan out. I mean, a lot of problems. First, he's got to clean up the deep state in his office. And that's going to be tough for him. A note from our advertiser, my relationship with them is they give our nonprofit money, and we just use that money to send somebody down for a gal who's got brain cancer. And we gave her sea vegetables, and we're giving her Immucyst. And we even are giving her turmeric. The brain tumor should be gone in about 6 months, but it needs to heal up so the turmeric reduces the swelling. So she might have took curcumin, which is concentrated turmeric. Anyway, so that's where the money's going. I took a trip in 1980. It cost me $80. Gold had spiked at $850 and come down to about $300. So it costs about 1/4 of an ounce of gold for me to take the trip. 21 days, $80, little 125 Harley, drove all over California, hiked through the mountains by myself, stayed with a sister while she had an adopted sister while she had an operation. Had a blast of freedom at 18. Woke up one morning in the mountains with a bear licking my nose, just licking my nose. So very interesting trip. Yeah, I was frozen. I couldn't move. Only time in my life I woke up and I looked and here's this bear licking my nose. Pretty sizable, but young cub, kind of 150, 200 pounds. Anyway, so it cost me 1/4 of an ounce of gold, and today that same trip would cost me about $800, 1/4 of an ounce of gold. The gold has retained its values. Your stocks have not, for the most part. And if you got a 401, God help you, especially once you're retired, because the fees skyrocket on your retirement fund and your 401k. So I called 877-646-5347 when gold was about $1,200. Now it's almost $3,600. Hey, baby, it's tripled in value. Nothing else I own has tripled in value, except maybe my Henry's 3030. But anyway, lever action, of course. But so gold has held its value in all these years, and now it's skyrocketing. You wait to see what happens with the dollar with $38 trillion in debt. Anyway, domestically, James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey, was fired. She's the one that blocked the release of the Epstein files. So Trump had to say there are no files. That's right, she burned them. Well, unfortunately, James Comey didn't fire his son-in-law, who prosecuted the J6ers. James Comey, of course, Daddy ran the SS, which ran the Holocaust, killed 6 million people. 4 million Russians, a couple 100,000 Americans, Belgian, French, Polish, and about 600,000 Jews were rounded up into the camps and burned. They got sick, they burned them. That's why they built the ovens. Anyway, towards the end of the war, it got real nasty. James Comey's dad was in charge of that. James Comey's daughter was in charge of hiding the Epstein files. And his son-in-law is responsible for prosecuting the J6ers, and he's still working for the Department of Justice. Trump has a heck of a mess to clean up. And in California, those Palisades fires, we showed the 3 missiles coming in. We might not have showed it, was all over the net. All those homes, none of the insurance has ever been paid out. California blocked the insurance payments, came in, used eminent domain, bought their house land up, and is now building low-income houses, sending hundreds of millions of dollars out for bids to build low-income housing for those who don't speak English. So all you Hollywood stars who lost your homes, all that money is going to illegal aliens. Oh, wow. And Trump declared war on the BRICS nations. He's using stablecoin, and he's raising, again, Bitcoin way up to high. He's going to pay off the debt and then bring Bitcoin back down again. But again, I can't get my money out of Coinbase, which is a Bitcoin dealer. So you want to buy Bitcoin, you might want to go through Noble Gold, 877-646-5347. They have an affiliate company that will allow you to buy and sell crypto. So call Noble Gold, they'll send you to somebody. As for me, though, I'll let Bitcoin do this. And I'll just put the gold and silver under my pillow and not worry about whether Bitcoin went up $1 billion or down $1 billion. Who cares? Who cares if Boeing goes up or down? They're going to get more military contracts. When I was a kid, they had a value of 14 cents. They almost closed. Now it's all military. They build 15,000 bombs a year. We got to drop them on somebody, right? So Trump declared war on the BRICS nations, is using stablecoin and the U.S. dollar to fight back. Biden capitulated. Okay, BRICS, take over the U.S. dollar, destroy it. Thank God somebody's fighting back. And foreign ownership of houses is still going up to the tune of about $1 million a year. The NGOs, I live in Minneapolis. I'm looking at buying your home. That's all Chinese funded money through the Jewish guy who owns BlackRock. You will own nothing and be happy. You will own nothing and be happy. You are slaves. Same people who work for HITLER, James Comey's dad, and the rest of them. They're still around. Anyway, so foreign ownership of land and houses is skyrocketing. It's in violation of the Constitution of 1789 and 1871. So far, Trump hasn't got a handle on that yet. And assaults on ICE agents are still up and up and up, 830% this year since Trump took over. And the websites that push the assaults on the ICE agents, nokings.org, citizens.org, are still up and running, and there's been no arrests. You think maybe the FBI needs to be dissolved? Yeah, baby. And overseas, Palestine, unbelievable. They were giving out food and water. They put in water lines. The Palestinians steal the water lines and use them for weapons. So then they put in more water lines, with a faucet continually running so people can come and get things like water, because it's 110 degrees out right now in Palestine, maybe 120. And the people rip it up and use it for weapons. They just literally rip it up, saw it in pieces. So they've tried to put in 100 water lines. So they're handing out the water, and the Palestinians came running with machine guns shooting. So they fired tear gas into the grenade. 21 people trampled to death. Unbelievable what's going on. You can't put in the water lines, and you can't even hand them MRE food. Of course, meals rejected by the enemy. They suck. But you can't hand them meals, and you can't put in water lines. It's insane there. They need to move them to Egypt. They're Egyptians. They're not the original Jews. That's an insane thought by some insane people. And Somalia, this year, what a mess that is. Biden broke it up into North Somalia and South Somalia. Why? Because of oil. U.S. oil. So the U.S. has bombed over 250 terrorists this year who are trying to take the Somali oil for Somalians. Amazing. But Trump won't put up with terrorism. He doesn't care why. You want to blow up and kill people? We'll kill you first. So there's been over 250 airstrikes. Not one word in any of the mainstream government-supported media. Not ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, NPR. Not one word about Somalia being bombed and murderers being killed. And Trump had a great idea. He's moving refugees to Eswatini. It's a little country that formed out of South Africa. Here's South Africa. It's a little country over here. It's the Zulu land. It's where the Zulu Empire was. There are 1.2 million Zulus there. They're the fiercest warriors in all of Africa. We're going to send the refugees there, the murderers and the rapists. Do you know what a Zulu does to someone who rapes a child or murders? We could send 5 million criminals there. 5 million. And the population of Eswana will still be 1.2 million. Because the people in Eswatini say, get a job or go. By I mean go, I mean. There's no goofing around in Eswatini. These people are serious. You rape a child, you're a dead man. So that's where Trump is now sending the worst criminals. The guy's a genius. He just isn't doing what God asked him to do, so things are falling apart. Don't worry, keep praying for him. Anyway, after the 12-year war, those in Tehran went out and looked on the ground, and there were a bunch of Jewish witchcraft symbols, talisman, things you wear around the neck, medallions. So the Jews spiked Tehran with Jewish witchcraft symbols. Now, how does that tie into America? Well, apparently the Pentagon used witches doing out-of-body experiences, those who worship Lucifer, do the human rituals once a month, to do out-of-body experiences to find the nuclear enrichment sites. Unfortunately, they used witches. And they didn't know that they flew right over the 24 nuclear weapons. So after we hit those 3 enrichment sites, the nuclear weapons scattered into the 4 winds. If they'd have come to God, they would have told them where the nuclear weapons were and the nuclear enrichment sites. But they didn't do that. They went right to Lucifer. So now Trump they've got 6 more nukes. No, so now Trump has a heck of a mess. Iran has 30 nukes, and they're still firing at U.S. bases. They used witchcraft. So how does that tie into you and I? Yesterday, the Capitol Hill police found a car loaded with explosive guns, a rapier sword, those really thin, long things that they used, for sword fighting. Anyway, I couldn't sword fight if my life depended on it. I'd probably charge the guy. But anyway, apparently they found it loaded with explosives, a rifle, pistol. They know the guy's name, they just haven't arrested him yet. And this car ties to the Minnesota governor, Tampon Tim. Apparently Tampon Tim, according to the assassin who killed the 2 Minnesota senators, his name is Dr. Vance Bettler, but his actual name is Dr. Vance Luther. And he was part of the inner circle of Tampon Tim. And Tampon Tim had an NGO created, a corporation, and he funneled millions into it. And he was an advisor, kind of like Elon Musk, an advisor to Trump. And so the whole world's trying to make a fight between Elon and Trump. It ain't working. Anyway, you can't kill a friendship, ABC, NBC, CBS, government-supported TV channels. So apparently this Luther was trained from the U.S. Army to be an assassin since college. And so he was put in the inner circle of Tampon Tim. According to this social article that came out, there's a lot of references to this. And Tampon Tim set him up in an NGO, funneled millions of dollars in, and he asked him to kill these 2 senators. Well, he's spilling the beans on Tampon Tim, because Tampon Tim wants to be a U.S. senator and then run for president. So they're going to put, Keith Ellison in as the governor of Minnesota, as Tampon Tim appoints himself as a senator, which dissolved. The U.S. Senate is dissolved, so it's a total PSYOPs job. So the PSYOPs continues. So he was ordered to kill Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith, and when he wrote the letter to Kash Patel explaining this, he says, by the time you get the letter, I'll be dead. So Tim Walz will never be arrested, ever. Apparently there's a third senator who just, I'm trying to look for the name, it's very complicated. Amy Klobuchar and Tim Smith are dead. There's a third senator who is now sick, a Minnesota Democratic senator who's now sick and in the hospital. Who knows who sickened her? Who knows if she was poisoned? So apparently Tampon Tim was ordered by the U.S. Army to kill these senators. And this guy spilled the beans to a letter to Kash Patel. Go to whatisitmean.com. You can read most of it. And but how much of a PSYOPs this is, we don't know. But if we see Tim Walz become a senator, you'll know this whole thing's true. And he was the one that ordered the death of 3 senators. Anyway, we're going to find out. This could all be speculation. It could be somebody's horrible dream. Or, more than likely, since the U.S. Army is filled with Satanists, and if you want to make major, you will join a satanic cult. I know, I faced that. I took them down. And then after I left the military, I walked through a general barbecue with generals there, 3 of them, and a bunch of officers. And I'd already opened an embassy, so I had, according to the U.S. Army, 2 stars. They have to treat me as a 2-star when I go on to post, have somebody guide me around, but they don't do that. They don't even know what to do with ambassadors on Fort Lewis or McChord. They're freaking clueless. So when I go on base, I'm supposed to be escorted everywhere and bought lunch and treated well. They don't do that. They're clueless because their officers are satanic pricks. So I walked through that pack and they all stood up for me and stared at me because I'm with God and they're with Lucifer. This is a real spiritual battle we're in, and Trump jumped right into the middle of it without any guidance except from corporate preachers. So Satan's leading Satan. You think, when I picked up that guy running from the Mormon church because they were going to sacrifice him, the head of the Mormon church, I realized all churches leaders are demon-possessed. And that's what the Lucifer Trust said 2 months ago. All directors of every department and agency in the U.S. are walking, talking demons. All Fortune 500 CEOs are completely demon-possessed or walking, talking demons. Well, that includes the church leaders too. That's why they've destroyed your prayer meetings with choir and children's church and adult church and girls' church and boys' church. That's not in the Bible. You're all supposed to just meet in one room and pray. But that's been destroyed by Satan and the CIA. Remember, Satan is the non-Moldavigians, the witches, and naval intelligence was supposed to be the descendants of Moldavigians, which are the descendants of Christ. Anyway, it's all filled with demons and loaded with demons and run by demons. So now Trump has a heck of a spiritual mess, and he's being led by demon-possessed people. So pray that the demon-possessed people get out of the White House. If you played harp music, they'd all be gone. If you got a child and he's demon-possessed, start playing harp music and clean his room out. It's that simple. He'll either run for his life because he's demon-possessed, or the demons will flee. God bless. Thank you very much. We appreciate each and every one of you, and Trump has one hell of a mess to clean up. We'll see you tomorrow.